goodness. Big move Monday. Look out. A way to end the tournament.
So what's happening, people? Welcome back to the Quad Pod, sponsored by Adidas Wrestling and Poseidon Strength. Make sure you're using those discount codes that are down below in the comment section. We're back for another really good conversation. We got Austin, we got Kevin, we got Robbie, also known as Bourbon Bob today. He's drinking a little bourbon on this Monday night as we are recording. And we've got some pretty good things to talk about, some pretty good wrestling. We're not going to talk Fargo, even though there was some really good wrestling that happened at Fargo. There's just a lot that went on at Fargo that we would have to get to. For all your Fargo updates, go listen to Willie and Bosch. They'll give you all the things you need. Willie loves that entire tournament. He's all about it and loves bragging about guys that he picked and nobody else knew about. So go check out Willie's. I think it's last week's show. But over here we do a weigh-in before we jump into any topics and stuff. And I will go first. And as I was called, what was that, a couple weeks ago, Wilkes guy, and I'll always be
now you're a Colonel's guy,
proud Wilkes guy, because that is my alma mater. But today I'm Wilkes guy because they hired a women's wrestling coach, and she's from the Lehigh Valley. Her name is Casey Kruchek. She spent the last couple of years coaching at Campbellsville, and she wrestled at Easton High School. She was actually Mitch Minotti's backup when she was in high school. And I used to, obviously
you couldn't beat Mitch.
She couldn't beat Mitch. So, but she made it in the lineup a couple of times. There were times that she made it into the lineup. I think I was there one of the only times she made it into the lineup in high school. And she headlocked a kid, it was from Phillipsburg. I think it was during the Easton Phillipsburg match, which was even better. And she headlocked a kid, pins him in like 30 seconds. And it was awesome. It was really cool. But she went on to wrestle in college, and then she's been coaching a good bit all around. Like I said, the last couple of years, under Miracle at Campbellsville, and now she will be the head coach at Wilkes. So shout out to my friends at Wilkes, Coach Loudenslager, as well as Pankale Chander, the head men's wrestling coaches over there in Wilkes-Barre, and now the new head women's wrestling coach, Casey Kruchek, through the Lehigh Valley on to bigger and better things, and glad to have her part of the Wilkes fam. So awesome to see more people heading from Easton to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And on to good old Bourbon Bob over here, Mr. Robbie.
So I need some clarification here. There's no E on that. It's not Wilkes-Barre.
It is, but it depends on how you pronounce it, right? Like, do you pronounce the E or don't you? I never did. Certain people do, but I never did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm learning things today.
Yeah, and I don't know if Scott Green did either while he was coaching at Wyoming Sem too. So I'm not sure, but
whatever he did was quite correct.
Whatever he did was probably correct. By the way, happy birthday to Scott Green. Today is his birthday as we were recording. Monday is his birthday.
Nice.
Everybody will hear this on Tuesday, but shout out to Scott Green. Texted him today. His name may come up maybe a little bit later in today's show.
It's possible.
But
involving
Robbie?
Something else that's green.
Yeah, Robbie, on to you.
I wanted to give a shout out. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But my ACC guys who wrestled in Budapest today, Bryce Andonian and J.I.L.O. and Mike Machiavello. Just three great guys. I mean, there's so many good people in the conference. And it's really three of them that just kind of highlight some of the better things about the sport. They're just great people all around. And, shout out to them. It was fun to watch them compete today.
Nice. Austin, on to you.
I'll give a shout out to, I'll stick in the Lehigh Valley, to one of my guys here from Rutgers. Steve Middich participated in my wiffle ball tournament this weekend. Brought a whole box of Rutgers wrestling gear, so appreciate Steve for that. And hell of a wiffle ball player, if you guys were curious. Showed up, started throwing heat, made the finals till some weather conditions, and maybe his arm gave out a little bit. He probably won't admit that, but ended up losing. Was runner-up to a bunch of freshly out of high school baseball players who definitely have an advantage in something like wiffle ball. So thanks to everyone else that showed up and supported. Great event as usual. And shout out Coach Steve Middich for some of the gear that he was handing out and for participating. It's always fun to see wrestling people come back to the Lehigh Valley and give back. So good time, good event. And thanks everyone that showed up.
Nice. It's awesome. So far, we're 3 for 3 on some Lehigh Valley shout outs because Mock is training at Lehigh too. And now Kevin's going to screw that up. So go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, 3
Ruin
for
it,
4
Kevin.
is still not bad, all things considered. Pretty high percentage. No, I got a couple shout outs to get through, but I'm going to move through them pretty seamlessly. So I started training again with Matt Becker. Matt Becker wrestled at Michigan State back in the day. He's 52, I believe. He won the U.S. Open a couple, weeks back or months back or however long ago that was. In Vegas for the Masters, I think Masters D, like it was the real old guys, right? But shout out to him. He's training to go to Budapest for the World Championship. So I try to go down on Monday and wrestle with him and try and give him a good feel. I did not do that today. He kicked my butt. So shout out to him. But also I wanted to shout out Cornerstone University and Chris Williamson. It's funny because it's not too far from my house. I've been down there a bunch of times. They host all of our youth stuff there as far as like big tournaments that we do and some big events that we do. They're really, really accommodating, really great people to work with in the community here. And I've done it so much now that I couldn't believe they've only been around for 4 years. So 2021 was their first season. They just completed their 4th season. They're getting into their 5th coming up this year. They already have Trevor Marsman, who was a 2-time All-American there. So like multiple time academic All-Americans. Like they're putting together a really good program. And once again, the guys in that room were kicking my butt today, not just the older guys. So that was fun. But I was doing it in my Addy Zeros right here. These bad boys was wrestling in these. These are great shoes.
Those are slick.
It wasn't the shoes' fault. It was definitely user error on my end. But QP25, don't forget to use that at adidaswrestling.com. And I just checked the website, the Speed X's, which are basically, they basically look like these as far as the grip goes.
They have the heel cup. I like that.
Heel cup, yep. And they're a little bit lower than these ones were too. So check those out. And yeah, those are all my. Oh, you know what? No, I'm sorry. RJ Boudreaux announced recently as the head coach at Grand Valley State University. If you don't know, I think they won like 12 straight state championships at Lowell High School here in Lowell in Division II. Before then, I think they won like 5 state finals against St. John's, Michigan, which had like some super studs back in the day. So I think like they've basically been in the state finals for almost 2 decades. And he's getting his chance to go coach in Division II, right up the road. Grand Valley State also has a women's program. Jake Short coaches there. Sage Mortimer wrestles there. Excellent school, excellent programs. And obviously the athletic department is committed to them being very, very successful, despite nobody I just mentioned being from the Lehigh Valley.
We'll cut that part out. That's okay.
Yeah,
We'll cut your
Shout
way
out
in
to the
out.
Amish.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, awesome shout outs. Love the shout outs to the shoes as well. You might want to read the user manual on those shoes so there's no more user error.
Yeah.
Well.
I think it was my fault. I'm gonna check those.
Do you have them the wrong feet?
And stop
There's
watching the
specific shoes for feet.
Yeah, I mean, kinda. You should probably stop using the Seth Gross technique too. He doesn't like to move his feet. He's not a sprawl guy.
Yeah,
I think you might be a sprawl guy.
I might be
just
a sprawl
thought.
guy. Yeah.
Just a
I'm
thought.
gonna try that next time.
But did you yell fire up chips while you were wrestling?
I know, no. But it was funny. So near the end, they were like one of the coaches. My apologies to him. I'm blanking on his name offhand. But he was like, "If you're getting beat, that's good. Let somebody like. If you're getting broke, that's good. You want to push yourself past that point. You're not getting beat. You're getting better." And I was like, "I'm getting really good then. It's gonna be awesome by next Monday."
That's incredible. Yeah. You got a hell of a lot better today. It sounds.
I got so much better. Only up from here.
Only up from here. Well, Unfortunately for us, with our first topic, it's not up. It is definitely down. And we're keeping in the same vein of the Lehigh Valley, and it's not so good news about Sammy Sasso. Couple weeks ago, we had great news about Sammy Sasso joining the Lehigh coaching staff, replacing Evan Henderson, and now we get a bad story that no one wants to read, right? And the facts of everything is that he was pulled over for expired tags, registration tags on the car he was driving. They found weed cartridges in the car for like a vape pen, and then 4 handguns in the car, one of which was registered in Ohio, and then the other 3 were found in an Ohio State bag in the car as well. So um, you know, he was arrested and just not good on any front whatsoever. So hopefully we'll see what happens with Sammy Sasso. But you know, before the article had come out, as most things, we're already kind of hearing about them and talking about them in our group. And I'm gonna kind of hand it over to Austin because I think it was Austin and Robbie that kind of brought it into the group, but then Austin got some more of the information to us as well. Of well, one, tell us who all your sources are, Austin. No, I'm completely kidding. No,
Pull
just
back the
like
curtain.
yeah, pull back the curtain completely. Who are your sources? No. One, like, when you got the information, what were your thoughts on all of it? And then is there anything that has developed as you're, not in Lehigh Valley now, but you're closer to Pennsylvania than I am, being back home than I am. So any thoughts on the situation as well as like thoughts initially when you got the info that you had shared with us?
Yeah, initially when we were kind of chatting about it in our little group chat, I was thinking, everyone loves Sammy. Sammy's a good guy. It's probably some misunderstanding,
Mm-hmm.
gets pulled over and got caught up with something, one gun here, an empty vape cart here. And as the article came out, turns out that wasn't the case. It might have been a little more involved in that, obviously, after reading that article. And I'm just kind of heartbroken for Sammy. And, he just came back home. This was a great gig for him. Kind of heartbroken for Lehigh because they were really ecstatic about this hire. I mean, how can you not? Sammy's a
Yeah.
freaking legend here in the Lehigh Valley. And, for something like that to be, I guess, to have such a high up and then such a low, a week or two later, it's disappointing. And I think Sammy would say that too, obviously, but it's going to sting a little bit. There's no news either way on his coaching position. I mean, I don't want to get too far into that, but I would imagine he won't be sticking around long. I'm sure they're waiting for the process to play out, the legal process, obviously, but um, yeah, that's just an assumption. I don't know for sure, but yeah, it's not good because Lehigh were on cruise control there. They had returning All-Americans. They had a great lineup coming, potentially top 5 in the country next year, and they got a great coach. And then boom, this kind of happened. So um, yeah, not good stuff here, and little disappointing in Lehigh Valley. And a lot of people were talking about it this week, and I was back home. Man, hey, what's the word on that? I was like, I don't know much. All I know is what happened in an article. Yeah, and people were asking what his previous incident at Ohio State and when he was in Columbus. I don't know. I'm sure people can draw some different conclusions now, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole here. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. Yeah. Robbie, like I said, you were the other, first news on this in the group chat. What were your thoughts?
I mean, it's disappointing. And I mean, I don't know, same kind of thing. I'm not going to go into the conjecture about whatever happened at Ohio State. The fact of the matter was he got shot, was severely injured, and had a very long road of recovery to come back, and has been through a lot. Whatever the circumstances were with how it happened, it's we know what the story is, and there's speculation that other things happened, and that's not my place to speculate. Um, the fact of the matter here, and as the elder of this group, and think Kevin and I have the same amount of kids, but I'll play the dad role here. You got to be smarter than that, and it's disappointing. You know, I've been a gun owner for 20 plus years. Have my concealed carry permit. Grew up in Wyoming, where guns are really part of your life, and you know, with owning guns comes responsibilities and understanding the laws and the rules that go with them, and they weren't followed. Whatever the circumstances were, they were not followed. You can't do that. It is what it is. I know he's been through a lot, and I can understand the reason want to carry for protection, and I'm all for that. But you know, to be in that circumstance, you have to accept the responsibility of doing that safely, and that doesn't seem like that was followed. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. As it stands, he's got charges for unregistered weapons, for possession of drug paraphernalia, and I mean, from the sounds of it, they were empty vape cartridges, which aren't allowed in Pennsylvania. Again, same thing. I mean, just because you just moved from somewhere else, you got to go by the laws of where you're at, and that's part of being an adult. And you know, sometimes being an adult sucks, and is what it is. You can argue with the you know, the thought process of the laws and if they should be the way they are, but that the reality is you got to follow them, and we can't want people to follow some laws and not others, and not deal with the consequences when you break them. So it's a shitty situation, and I mean, hopefully he comes out better because of it and learn something from it.
Kevin?
Yeah, it's just a real bummer for everyone involved, you know. Like, I don't know, people can say what they want to say about it. It's just funny to me, like, literally, what is it, across the bridge? He's in New Jersey and weed's legal.
Yep.
Like
10 minute
away.
drive. Yeah.
10 minutes away. Yeah.
10,
Like
15.
So,
Yep.
I don't know. I had a buddy who was on probation for 2 years, like after weed was legal in Michigan for weed. And so it's like, you know, some rules, I don't know. It is what it is. Bummer for him on that. The handguns, that's tough. You gotta, that's really, really, really scary. I can't imagine that Lehigh wasn't talking to them about protocols and what you can and can't do and those sorts of things. Like, I don't imagine they skip some sort of orientation about that piece. So it's really tough. And he's going to have to deal with the consequences, and it might preclude him from being involved in coaching, you know, opportunities in the future. So he's going to have to figure out what he's going to do. So there's a lot that's going on with this kid, man. And it really stinks. I mean, you think about where he was and getting ready for Worlds, and then he got shot. So now it's here. So it's like, it's just a sad story, man, for a kid that from all accounts is a good kid and respected and liked, and made a series of bad choices and drove an unregistered car, which shit, I mean, to my understanding, it wasn't even his. You probably don't even know it's unregistered if you're just kind of cruising around.
My wife's car is expired, so.
Well, here you are talking about rules, and you,
not my car.
Don't drive it then.
Yeah,
And there's never guns in that one.
Yeah,
that's good.
It is really unfortunate. You know, as I've said plenty of times, I've known Sammy since he was a teenager, right? We were coached by the same man of Dave Kroll. So I know the values that Dave Kroll teaches, and I know the values that he instills, not just in wrestlers, but in coaches as well. You know, you see, you know, Coach Kroll doing coaches clinics for other coaches and not just for other wrestlers and stuff like that too. So, you know, those values is something I still completely live by, and I still call him coach to this day. There's people that you always get that you respect on that level, and he's one of them. So knowing the kind of values and things that have been instilled in those wrestlers and the coaches and the guys that have been part of his coaching tree, you know, one of them is now at Austin's alma mater that coached under Coach Kroll, right? He is now the head coach there, and you're seeing the same type of things that he is pushing his wrestlers to do at Northampton, right? So Pravini is an awesome guy, and so that coaching tree it's pretty vast at this point. He has a pretty big impact on a lot of guys, whether they were coached by him or coached with him. So when I see that Sammy is in some sort of trouble, and Sammy did get into some trouble back in high school as well. So this isn't, the first time that he was in trouble with weed, I guess I should say. But Kevin, you're right. There's a bridge that connects Easton, Pennsylvania to New Jersey, and there's a dispensary literally right across the bridge. You can see it. You can see the dispensary from Pennsylvania.
You can smell it too,
Legal
probably.
right there.
The bridge is connected to a road named after my uncle. So like it's literally right there. So it's tough when people get in trouble for something that is legal 30 seconds away, right? Where it is so accessible and so easily accessible. The guns part,
That's tough.
if it was a gun registered in Ohio, if it stopped there, I think it would still be an issue, right? But I think once you look in the bag and you see multiple guns, it makes it 10 times worse. And that's the part where you're like, man, now it's a lot more devastating than just having empty weed cartridges and a gun registered in a different state. So
Much more difficult to explain away as well.
Exactly. So, I am hopeful for Sammy as somebody that covered him as a high school kid and obviously as a college kid as well, and has been friends with, his dad and his family for such a long time. You want to see him do well. And when he was shot, it's pretty devastating. You wanted to see him get back on his feet, and it was awesome to see him get back on the mat after so long. I can completely agree with wanting to conceal carry after being shot and wanting to have your own protection, but you have to be responsible about it. And that is what I hope for with anyone, right? And being from the Lehigh Valley, Austin can attest to this too. Like, this isn't the first time that we've seen an ex wrestler get in trouble with the law, and it sucks because it's a person that you grew up wrestling with, or them very closely and very well, and you just want the best for these guys. You don't want to see them in trouble, and Sammy is definitely one of those people. So I'm hopeful for the result of all of this. I hope that there is some sort of due diligence that he can do before his trial on July 30th that lessens the blow, so that he can get back to doing the things that he loves and on the path that he was on before all of this stuff happened. So, support to Sammy. I don't want to see him or anyone else for that matter in trouble. But like I said, with being as close to him and his family as I am, and as I've been fortunate enough to be, I really just want to see him be back on the right path to do the things that we all know he's capable of. He's wanted to coach for a pretty long time. I watched him coach his brother at Elite Eight duels a couple of years ago, and his brother was still in high school, and he's really good at it. Kids really take to Sammy's coaching, and I would love to see him be able to do that and get a second chance for sure. So we'll see
Hell,
what happens.
I've seen him run Dark Knights practices when he was in high school still.
Mhm.
Whitey was just let Sammy run it because the guys just flocked to him. They loved him. He was he was an idol up there, obviously. So yeah, he's been doing this for a long time on the coaching side as well. And again, like you guys keep saying, we're excited for him to start his coaching career, and that's probably gonna be on hold for a little bit here, unfortunately. But
Yeah, because he can have a really good impact on Lehigh Valley. He can, right? Like, we saw how much of a great impact he had on Lehigh Valley as a high school wrestler and as even a college wrestler at Ohio State, where the whole Lehigh Valley was behind him. He makes the finals and he's doing well on that collegiate level, and it kind of elevates the Valley with, just the wrestling country that we are. It really elevated us to see him and, guys like him and Jo and Sheptok, who, was one of your teammates. Like, it just elevates everyone in the Lehigh Valley. Everybody really flocks to it. And I'm hopeful that with him being on to that next stage of life, that he does get a second chance and we see what happens. Right. But yeah, positive note to, positive vibes out to Sammy as he goes through a very tough situation. But on to the next one. And let's talk some coaching changes. And a couple of weeks ago, I had said that I had a phone call with a coach that was coming up. That was Nate Engel. And I was talking with Nate, like I said, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, before the news came out that he was going to be leaving Oregon State. Him and I had a conversation, and he was just like, I think it's time. Like, he's wanted to be a head coach for a very long time. Everywhere that Nate has gone, he has taken on some sort of role as a, I guess, semi head coach, where the duties and things that he's had to do are head coach duties for other programs. So he has been primed and ready to do what he wants to do for a long time. But he's got 3 boys. They're continuing to get bigger and older. And I think that's
To
kind
be
of
fair,
the
they're
same.
not going to get much bigger.
Yeah, probably not going to get much bigger. They're probably catching him at this point, between him and his wife, who's the only person I know that's shorter than him at this point. But he wants to also have time to be a dad. And, if you know Nate, he doesn't stop. He goes from coaching, the college team to coaching their RTC team, which includes both men and women. And then he's also, kind of all over the place when it comes to recruiting. He wears a number of hats, and that's how it was when I met him when he was at Navy. It's how he's been no matter where he's gone. And now he's making a change, and he's going to be, heading somewhere else. I don't know if that's out right now, so I don't want to put that out that of where he's going. But Nate and I will do an interview. He did talk about wanting to come on here and maybe talk with all of us, or maybe a couple of us, or whatever. So there's not a whole bunch of people throwing questions at him.
Everybody but Kevin.
We'll figure that.
I'll
We'll
just
figure
sit
that
here
out.
like this.
Yeah, we'll figure that out when the time comes. But he does want to come on and discuss the transition and the change and everything else. But what were your thoughts on the news that Nate Engel was leaving Oregon State? And I will start with Kevin, since he is. I mean, it is Oklahoma State, orange and black, but
Yeah. And
Still
I
have those
commented
colors.
on the Beavers' awesome singlets last weekend,
You did.
So yeah. I was surprised, I think it's been pretty evident. And I know, as a group here, we've talked about the different opportunities that he was interviewing for, interested in, trying to get involved with. And it's not the first time his name's come up. I feel like he was kind of creeping into that, Coach Hall situation where it's like, this guy is obviously awesome and is going to be a head coach somewhere and be very successful in that spot. It's just not it yet, right? So, that's a bummer. Adam Hall. I don't know why I couldn't think of his first name. I was just sitting there and I was like, God.
Adam is a tough name.
I was thinking Roy Hall. Roy Hall coached at Davison for a long time here in Michigan, was a badass coach. So anyway,
That name would not fit Adam at all.
Not at all. No, he's not a Roy. Roy fits Roy. I promise you that. But no, I was very surprised. And more power to him, from what I understand, it sounds like it's going to be a good move for him, but it's just a bummer that some program, with how many jobs that were open right now, and this is like an abnormal year where there's this many kind of programs available, and it's just, they're not the right positions for him. So he's making the change. So, and Oregon State's going to be in a good spot. Chris Pendleton's obviously done an awesome job at the helm there, and they're going to miss him certainly. But yeah, wherever he lands, he'll be an asset immediately.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually texting Nate right now to see if we can put it out there so we don't have to kind of beat around the bush this entire conversation. But Robbie, what are your thoughts on the Nate Engel move?
I thought you were going to ask him if he doesn't like Kevin. Can you ask him that?
We both have the same haircut.
I
Or
feel
is
you.
it lack of a haircut?
I mean, I hope we can talk about it because it's a great job for him. It's a good fit. Would have loved to see him get a shot at Army. I think it would have been a really good fit for Service Academy. Yeah, that's where I first met him was when he was at Navy, and one of the kids that wrestled for me was looking at wrestling there, and I'm talking to him about the process and everything with that. And he's a hell of a coach, and he's going to be really, really good at what he does now. This new position is going to be a great fit for him, and it's going to be good for him, but it's also going to be good for the program. So I was kind of surprised that it came up when it did. But it's a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did keep it a secret until it came out. Glad that I did that, honestly. Cause you guys got a chance to actually, have a firsthand look at it. Austin, your thoughts on Nate Engel's move. And one other thing is that I'll throw at Austin is there anyone that you could think of that would want to head to Oregon State to replace him?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I don't really know anyone for replacement, but quick thing on Angle, I met him too at Navy as well and starting to chat a little bit. And like you guys said with Adam Hall, he was always in the discussion of, oh, this head coaching job's open. I wonder if Angle would be interested, and then finds out, oh, he would be interested, and turns out, oh, he's a finalist. Just, never really got that opportunity. And I know that's true for a few schools on the East Coast here. So yeah, I think he is a great coach. We all know that. He's probably even better human on top of that. And I think where he's going,
100%.
he's a great fit for that. But replacements for Oregon State, I mean, it's a great gig. It's just, I feel like it's tough because it's kind of not really near any other D1 programs, so it's definitely a move. It's definitely a commitment for someone. I'm not sure who at Nate Engel's level would be willing to take a position on like that. I'm sure there are some guys. I just don't know off the top of my head right now. But yeah, it's definitely a good role for someone to fill in. It's a good get for Chris Pendleton, whoever he decides to hire there.
Yeah.
It's one of those spots though that could be really good for somebody who's trying to move into a head coaching spot, because he's going to get realistically going to get a lot of those jobs running the RTC. I mean, they have a good men's and women's program there.
Yeah.
And then taking on the responsibilities that Nate had there, it's a great stepping stone to move up to that position. So I think there'll be a lot of interest.
Yeah.
Corvallis is kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it's
Yeah.
as far as being connected to other programs, but it's
Yeah. And I
it's a
mean,
beautiful place too.
Pendleton's done a really good job at like elevating that program as well. I mean, Nate was obviously a part of it with recruiting and stuff like that too, but like Pendleton was also one of those guys where you were like, okay, when's he going to get a head coaching job? Where is the opportunity going to come for him? Because you knew that he was also going to be a guy that was able to elevate a program, and we're seeing that, right? He's a California guy, so he has shown that, where we saw him do this with when he was at Arizona State and he was the assistant coach there, he's doing kind of the same stuff where he's getting those California kids to come to Oregon State, right? Where it's not as far from home. You know what I mean? It's still, I might even be the same time zone. I'm not even sure, but it's one of those easier transitions, and Pendleton has done a really good job at that. And I talked to Nate about Pendleton. He's like, Pendleton is a great guy. He's awesome on the mat. Like, he is one of those coaches that technically he knows his shit, and as you would expect, but like he's just like very intricate, very detailed, and just really good with the guys on the mat, which is huge, and it's what you need because there's every team needs that, right? When you look at, an Iowa State, you're pretty sure that it's Metcalf that is getting on the mat with these guys too. So just like having a head coach that can do that, it's awesome to be able to do that too. And Pendleton is definitely one of those guys, and I love how he has elevated that program at Oregon State along with Nate Engel. We'll certainly see who wants to step into that position and take on that role. It's going to be pretty big shoes to fill. Kind of
Small shoes.
small shoes, big role to fill. I guess
There
I
you go.
should say.
I was
And
just thinking real quick, a name I thought of, and I don't know if, I mean, because he was the associate head coach. So they might just promote internally and bring somebody else in or whatever. But Evan Wick was a name that popped into my mind. He's another California guy. I don't know if he wants to start transitioning into coaching or if he wants to finish out this cycle and do everything he's doing. I think is he still training at Cal Poly? I think he is.
I think so. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
But
Yeah, because Cerritos was coaching him at Final X.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, West Coast nearby. If that's something he wants to get into, he might be a name I'd look at.
Yeah. The other name that I was thinking of was Terapelli, and we saw him at Stanford, right? He was with Nate at Stanford. And I love to, love everything the Terapellis do in California. All right. They're, two of his brothers are coaching at Buchanan and Clovis, and a lot of family lineage at Clovis. So there's another guy that is familiar with the West Coast and can recruit in California and recruit those guys because he's pretty familiar with it. So like I said, that would be a thought for me of maybe pulling in Terapelli because he's been around. He knows how to recruit, he knows how to do that. And obviously, I mean, not to throw any shade, but the academic standard at Stanford is certainly higher than it is at Oregon State, right? So it's a little bit slightly different, right? So that's another one of the thoughts that I had of a guy that could potentially replace him, is a guy that literally coached with Nate when they were at Stanford, before that regime became completely new. Let's move on to other
Real
coaching.
quick, another name just popped in. What about Ray Blake? Speaking of guys who were at
Yeah.
Stanford.
Yeah, I mean,
You dig him out of Bixby. I don't know. How that's
I
gonna
feel
go.
like Ray is in a good spot. When
He
I
might
when I
be.
saw him at, what was that, in Kansas City, when we were out in Kansas City, I saw him and his wife. We talked about his job and how like he made that transition to go back to high school. And I think family wise, he's in a really good spot as well. I feel like his wife has like a really good position where they're at as well. So I don't know, but I thought about that too when I was thinking about like Stanford guys that were there and could potentially replace them. But yeah, I think he really enjoys coaching those high school guys, and then he's got
Between
Jenna
him
Burkett
and Jenna,
too,
I mean,
so.
that's a hell of a program they got going.
That's a damn good staff.
Yeah, maybe that's an interview that I'd try and get, is the both of them on to discuss their program, because obviously they're coming from a pretty high level, so that would be really cool. Ooh, Nate Engel just texted back. Let's see what he says. We're gonna wait a week, so next week we will be able to discuss it.
Tune
And
in
then
next week, folks.
You'll have to wait till next week.
Same bat time.
We're not spoilers on this show. See, I sent a text to ask if it was okay. I didn't just go, full. He just let me know he is staying in coaching though, so it is something that is happening. We do know that. We will put all of the details out, and the conversations will come out, and then obviously like I said, we'll talk to Nate at some point too. But for right now, tune in next week. We'll discuss his transition and where he's headed.
Cliffhanger.
And, so yeah, little cliffhanger for you. I know everybody's clamoring for that Nate Engel news. I know I always am because Nate's a good guy. But yeah. So tune in next week. But yeah, maybe we get Ray Blake and Jenna on and talk to them about their program in Bixby. Some high level people that have done very well for a very long time.
Also, good people.
Good people. I when I got to Flow, I was coaching. I was working with Ray's brother, Ryan Blake. He was part of the Flow crew back then. I don't know if you guys remember him, but He was part of the Flow crew, and he was a really good video editor. He taught me a lot when it came to video editing. So he was a pretty awesome guy. I also saw him out in Kansas City as well when we were out there. I think Kevin had went to bed at that point by the time I had run into the Blakes at that point.
Yeah, it had been a long. You only went out the last day. I'd been out every day.
Yeah, I didn't go out.
But you
those
got to
first
pace
couple.
yourself. It's a long
Yeah.
week.
I've
long
learned
weekend.
my lesson. I have certainly learned my lesson of trying to work the floor of NCAAs and get interviews and then go out and have a couple of beers or have a couple of drinks, whatever it is, and talk to people and then get out. I mean, NCAAs does do a good job of kind of allowing you to do that a little bit though, because the sessions are spaced out and everything else. It does allow you to kind of get a little bit of sleep. But yeah, I learned the hard way of trying to burn both ends of the candle. It didn't work out for me back in 2016. I will say that St. Louis was a bit blurry. I'll leave it at that.
It's the best way to have St. Louis, though, to be fair.
Let's stay in coaching and talk about Binghamton. And I'm coming over to Robbie. I know you've got some updates or some things that you've been hearing about who's in the mix for Binghamton.
So I've got 3 names that I've been told, and surprised that Donnie Vincent is not one of them. From my understanding, finalists are Scott Green, Calvin Russell, and Ryan LeBlanc. Second time we've heard Ryan LeBlanc as a finalist this year, as well as Scott. So familiar names
LeBlanc was
from the Army.
A finalist for the Army job?
The Army job as well, yeah. So him and Scott and Troy. So interesting names. Very surprised that Donnie Vincent did not make the final go around. Being an alum, being an experienced head coach, very experienced associate head coach across multiple programs. Surprised to see that. To me, it kind of boils down to, do they want a younger head coach or do they want a more experienced head coach? Nothing against Ryan LeBlanc. Clearly, he's a damn good interviewer, if nothing else. He's been a finalist for 2 different jobs. Maybe he should be running that session at the convention this next couple weeks. But I think it kind of comes down to, you want the experience of, what Scott Green will bring to you, or do you want the youth and upside of potential of what Kellen Russell can offer?
Yeah. Before I go, Kevin, chime in.
Well, see, this isn't fair because I like Scott Green. I've talked in any interaction I've had with Scott Green. He's almost one of those guys. So like, all right. So when we covered Army on Blood Round, I mostly talked with Kevin Ward, but that was when they hired Scott Green, and I was like, man, that's such a huge hire. Awesome guy to bring in. Obviously, he's going to impact the program. They've had, All-Americans several, like, since then. It's been a really, really great hire. And I've only heard great things about Scott Green, and any interaction I've had with him, which has been very, very minimal. It's mostly been him, talking to us on intermat calls or something like that, was just really great. Kellen Russell is my favorite Michigan wrestler of all time. This sucks. Like, I don't want to talk about this.
Hire them both.
Yeah, and LeBlanc, like, honestly, LeBlanc was great too. I remember watching him in college. He was fantastic, and clearly he's doing some good things at the Citadel. Clearly wants to make a move, which I think is probably okay to do it, after a while of having some.
Because the humidity in Charleston is fucking ridiculous.
I believe you.
It's a nice city, though.
I haven't enjoyed it myself, but
nobody enjoys that, even the people who live there.
But yeah, I mean, you're asking me to I can't, blast.
Pick your favorite kid here, Kevin.
Yeah, I can't. I'm going to say Kellen Russell because I literally just watched clips of him with my son this weekend. It was like, look at him. He's wrestling in overtime. He's never lost an overtime match. Remember the time he won the NCAA title with a broken ankle for like 60% of the match? That was awesome. Here's him, Matt, returning Montel Marion on his face. Like, just, it's hard. It's really hard to not just get excited about what he can do. And having talked to him a number of times, like they have lots of great options. So the Binghamton is set up pretty well, I would say.
Yeah. Austin, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to go wrong with either one of those options. Scott Green not getting the head coach of Army job, I'm sure he felt some kind of way about that, whether it's, really upset or just, a little bit of questioning himself. But he had other options. He could have left Army West Point. The other teams did reach out, as I think he said in your interview, Holmes. Turned those down. He wanted to stay in Army. Him and Troy Nickerson are really close, so I'm sure if he does get this Binghamton job, it wouldn't be an easy decision for him either. I know he's put his heart and soul into Army West Point program, really turned it around, but I'm curious to see what he could do by him, as a head guy somewhere else at a school like Binghamton. But Russell has been great up at Cornell. He's been right-hand man next to Coach Gray, and they've been doing some great things, obviously. So, like I said, either decision's great. LeBlanc has been turning Citadel around a little bit. They're getting some more qualifiers every year, I feel like. They're kind of rising slow and steady. It's not super easy to do at a school like Citadel, which I think is impressive for his resume. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they hire. And I think the question that Robbie posed, I think it was do you want a little bit of youth in Kellen Russell, or do you want someone that you really know what you got in Scott Green, who's had a stint there previously as an assistant, which kind of might make decisions it might help make the decision that way too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we posed that even in when we were discussing these guys, was just like, if you want and it's not a shot at Scott Green, if you want the youthful coach who guys in this generation probably would recognize, it's Kellen Russell, right? Like and that's what a lot of these different administrations are trying to go for, is having a recognizable figurehead as their head coach, and recognizable from a standpoint of guys that this generation have seen compete and know about them from that relevancy factor. When it comes to Scott Green, and he mentioned during our conversation, there was a couple of things that he mentioned that really stuck out to me. Is he had a list of places where he would go with getting back into college, whether it would be as an assistant or a head coach when he was leaving SEM. I'm sure Binghamton was on that list, as he was there as an assistant previously. The other thing that he said was, when we talked about recruiting, and at Army, recruiting is different, where they don't have to worry about the transfer portal. At Binghamton, I think he would have to use that login for the first time, which during our conversation, he said, I've never even been in the transfer portal because it's not something that I ever have to worry about. So that would be a big change for him as somebody who came into, or at least back into, college recruiting and didn't have to sell with NIL and sell with all these benefits and stuff like that outside of what the Army is already granting people, right? So I think that's another factor as well. Kevin, what are you thinking?
None of these guys have had to do that. You think guys are often transferring to the Citadel or into Cornell? No. Like they managed to find the three people, and ultimately, like, all of these guys are absolutely capable of figuring this out. Mm-hmm. The coaching networks and everybody else involved, and whoever else they bring on their staff that may or may not have more experience within the portal, are going to be able to help them out there. They're not going to be like, I don't understand, I forgot my login, what am I going to do? Yeah. Like, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I guess I make a point of it mostly because he was saying how fortunate he was that he didn't have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. Where he was just like, we don't have to worry about that. The guys that you come in with are the guys that you leave with. You don't have to worry about somebody being in your senior picture that wasn't in your freshman picture, right? It's just not what we have to worry about, right? So I guess from that standpoint, yeah, none of these guys have had to truly do any of that. Cornell, Citadel, Army, they're all guys that have not had to deal with the NIL portion of it. But Scott Green made it a point to say, I'm glad I haven't had to deal with it. So this is how I'm understanding that Binghamton was certainly on his short list of places that he would want to go. And, it's just pretty wild how after trying to become the head coach at a place that you're already at and being passed over for that and saying, I'm going to stick with the guy who is damn near family to me and a guy that he coached himself. And then one of the schools that is on your list opens up and you're like, man, it's like Kevin picking his favorite kid again. Like, this is
Yeah.
not the situation I really wanted to be in, but it's an opportunity. And I'm sure he had that conversation with Troy, and him and Nickerson probably sat down and talked about it, or, however they went about it. And he was like, I'm going to go for this. This is a place that I probably have wanted to go back to and have a chance of being the head coach there. Right. So I honestly think that, and this isn't a shot at LeBlanc at all, but I feel like it's between going with a guy like Kellen Russell, who I said is this generation of wrestlers knows more from a competition standpoint than a coaching standpoint, I guess, or Scott Green, who the school is certainly familiar with and knows how to work with and knows what he's all about and knows what the program would be about as well. So I, I feel like they can't go wrong with any of these guys, but if it's me looking at this list of candidates, it's between those two for those reasons specifically. Any other thoughts on the Binghamton coaching position and who's up for it?
There is not a Wegmans in Binghamton, but there is one in Johnson City, which is just up the 201 from the school. So I'm sure Scott knows it well, but just in case he's curious, it's not too far.
Yeah. I'm sure that is certainly a factor for him. If we see the white smoke from a Wegmans, we'll know that it's Scott Green that got the Binghamton job.
Yeah, and I would love to see what a guy like Scott Green can do at Binghamton, where there's not as many, for lack of better, restrictions on who you can recruit there. Binghamton isn't quite as strict as Army West Point getting guys in there, but it's not a simple state school either. There are some academics there, so widening that ability to transfer a little bit, I think he could bring in some really good classes. And knowing Scott Green, he's going to hire good guys below him to help with the technique, help develop these guys too. So I think Binghamton, there's potential there to be a really good program in the future, no matter who they go with.
And they've always had, like, the last decade plus. I mean, he was there with Papalizio and Frank Beasley. So last decade plus, they've had solid guys who are either All-Americans or All-American caliber guys. So that the potential is there for it to be, a strong, smaller school program. And, with the right leader, that's certainly possible.
I imagine whoever comes in doesn't get rid of Dupres, right? Like, that guy's
Probably not.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, you got to keep.
I wouldn't want to tell him anything negative, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume that Louis Dupre stays no matter who comes in. He's definitely a guy you want to keep on staff.
And I was told he was one that applied for the job too, but obviously not one of the finalists, which understandable. Just got into coaching.
Yeah, as he should.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that he did. Honestly, it shows.
I agree.
It shows initiative. It shows where he wants his career to go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about some wrestling, some action that happened on the mat today, Monday, with Russia versus USA at PWL. And we had talked about the promotion of it and everything else. And honestly, for the late promotion, it seemed like a lot of people were really engaged in this. And not just the late promotion, but the lack of stars, I guess, that we had there. None of our number ones were part of this, so obviously guys that are certainly well known, like Hamity and Machiavello and Lilladal and Aiello, like the guys that won matches. But it wasn't the most star-studded Team USA that we've had. Kevin, I know, you had been watching. I had to catch up on it a little bit later as I was at work, but What were your thoughts on everything, the production of it, the how everything went, the look, the matches? Floor's yours.
Yeah. So I mean, I had to watch it on mute. I was kind of just had it on my phone while I was at work, to be honest. But from what I saw, it was great. I didn't have any issues with the stream. It was the camera angles were pretty cool. Like there was no issues there. Um, I can't comment on the commentary or any of that. I did wonder, there was the guy that was like the Bill Buffer guy who was like announcing the people coming down. Was that in English or was that in Russian? Did anyone
think it
hear
was-
that
It
guy?
was English for me.
It was
Was it?
English, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
So JB was on the stream on the US side
Okay.
doing commentary, and he said the guy's name was Peter Linkage. And I thought he said Peter Dinklage at first, so I was really excited.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why
It
yeah.
was not Peter Dinklage. It was very
Oh.
misleading.
He got really tall.
He
Yeah.
did in a very shiny suit.
he was
Yeah.
definitely doing his Bruce Buffer with the jacket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that was the other thing. I was watching it. I was like, is this just like a requirement? You have to just like ham it up like crazy? Like, I guess probably
Yes.
it is. But no, I mean, as far as the wrestling was going, it was great. I was really excited for Luke Lilladall because it looked like the other guy was falling apart and was getting gassed. And I just think he got too aggressive and too excited and like it was just the youth and exuberance of a guy who's in a big spot and just there was one point, God, he almost. I'm trying to remember the situation. It was like he was in on a reshot and he just tried to finish it too quickly. And then all of a sudden it was like a body lock and then he just lost the position entirely. It's like that,
Yeah.
that was the match. It was that sequence. And it was just frustrating to know, I mean, basically how that went. But I don't know. Overall, it was a great event. I had a lot of fun watching it and some good outcomes on both sides. I mean, it looked like we were going to get barnstormed for a minute, and then we finally did the thing where they get tired and we don't. So that was cool.
Just had to get to the upper weights for it.
Yeah, really, we did.
Robbie.
Yeah, kind of what Kevin said. I mean, it was tough to watch initially because we were getting our ass kicked. But when you look at the lineups and you see the world rankings of these guys and the world championships finishes next to their name, and then you see our guys who are young and aren't at the top of our ladder yet, I think the expectation was that it wasn't going to be, a super close battle at some of these weights. Talk about Andonian from that perspective. I mean, he's fourth on our ladder right now and just faced the reigning world champ. And he got ragdolled, but damn sure tried to make things happen. Went out on a sword, and that's all you can really ask for in matches like that, is that they're giving it a shot and trying to make things happen. And I think the Lildahl match frustrated me just with the finish, because I think he was in that match and could have and probably should have won that. But it was, the next few matches kind of went as we expected, especially when you see that Seth Groth wasn't there. So we're sending a guy who's not even a full-time freestyle wrestler.
Yeah. So
it's kind of what you expect when you're facing that kind of competition. I will say Marcus Coleman was damn impressive, and that finish was awesome. Was he down like 7-0 and came back and won 8-7 and never gave up, and that gas tank was important in that last minute, made all the difference. Machiavello looked great. That was a ranked win for him over a top 10 guy in the world. Ayala looked good against fake Parker Keckeisen, and tell me that was not the Russian Parker Keckeisen.
I
He
saw
looked
it. I
just
was
like him.
he definitely resembled Parker.
I think American Parker Keckeisen could have beat him.
I would give him that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I agree.
Was really built up for that last match for Hilger, and then he's like, oh shit, this guy's really good.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work out as we thought. But 4 matches out of 10 against that lineup is respectable with the guys that we sent.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dylan Kuntz though, real quick. Like to step into that spot. Like again, we don't know what happened to Seth Gross, but I don't think he was planning on wrestling. You know,
No,
and
he
it
was there
just
for Greco for the ranking series.
There you go, man. And he was like, "All right," he gave it his all.
I mean, I get to grab legs.
Yeah,
Fucking sweet.
At least attempt to.
Yeah, I don't think he ever
Yeah.
did.
I don't know if he. I don't
didn't
even know if
touch
he.
a leg.
Don't know if he touched one, but
It was Greco.
he thought about it. Austin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was a good event. Last kind of people were saying put the team together last minute for the US. You can kind of tell. I'd love to see a little bit more ones and twos from the US square off against a team like Russia. I mean, throw Iran in the mix. I think it could be a good event.
It's almost like we want to see the World Cup back again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That'd be pretty cool. Can we have that
Yeah.
again?
why would fans want that? I wonder.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
But yeah, and also I was surprised I was able to watch it on my work computer at work and it wasn't flagged because it was on a Russian website. So, shout out to that. And if the FBI comes knocking on my door, that's probably why. But yeah, I thought Lil Adult looked good. Yeah, it just sucks he kind of, lack of a better word, choked at the end. He had that match won and just fell out of position one time and boom, gave up that takedown. But yeah, it was a good event. Marcus Coleman looked really good, gutting that one out. Mock looked really good. Not sure why he's rocking the headgear though. I mean,
You got to hold the man bun up, man.
Yeah, I think it's more of a hair thing than an
is that what
ear
it
thing.
is? Yeah.
You can't wear a scrunchie. That's against the rules.
It's a lot of hair. It's a lot of hair, and he's not cutting it.
Yeah,
I don't blame him. If I had hair like that, I wouldn't cut it either.
Yeah, the headgear thing in freestyle, especially as an adult, it doesn't sit right with me. But I'm not gonna tell it to his face. So whatever.
Yeah. The event itself, I thought looked great. Right, there were no issues with streaming. Initially,
For a free event too.
Yeah, yeah, for free. It was they did a really great production.
The American music was amazing.
Which tells you something about productions we have of like maybe there should be a little bit bigger of an investment to do things on that bigger scale. I mean, hell, the same day we're seeing, Russia put together a card and broadcast it literally all over the world. We're getting that RAF is going to be on Fox Nation, so the bar is kind of high now. Like if you're going to have a professional league, then make sure you're doing it right from a production standpoint, but it's completely tangential. Don't even really want to get into it. But I
am going to need an explainer of what Fox Nation is though.
Yeah, I think it's just their app. I don't really know. I've never, outside of Fox Sports, I don't really, or Fox Sports or Fox Sports 1 or FS1, whatever it's called, wherever the sports on Fox end up.
Yeah, because they host Big Ten stuff too.
Yeah. Yep. And then obviously the NFL that we get during, in the next couple of months. But I think, obviously the guy that stood out the most was Hamity. He looked amazing. Very, very impressive. And I understand that, his opponent got hurt, whatever else. But outside of that, like there's no caveat.
He hurt his opponent. Let's
fine.
Yeah. He did the thing where he hurt somebody
in
a wrestling match, not intentionally to hurt them.
Certainly.
The opponent, he didn't slip on a banana peel and then get on the mat,
There was two cans of cold spray used. He's fine.
This is true.
You could amputate a leg with 2 cans of cold spray.
But Hamity looked great, right?
He's all better now.
Hamity stopped the bleeding is what he truly did for us, because we were it was just nothing. It looked really bad to start, and Hamity looked really good. I loved the ankle picks and how he was setting things up. It's almost like working with a guy who was the same height and weight and length and did a lot of the same things. Kind of works out for Hamity. Crazy, right?
You can reach an ankle from across the mat.
Yeah, pretty wild. Pretty freaking wild. But he looked awesome. It was great to see Coleman come back after being down. Mock, what can you say about Mock? He's a gamer. You would have loved, Aiello sets it up for the potential of a wrestle off match. which is honestly a really cool rule that I had seen
Yeah,
where
I love that.
if it's tied 5-5, we do a random draw and we re-wrestle a match to finish it off. And I was like, let's make this happen, right? Like
Like
I would
that.
love to. I mean, obviously, I
Pull
would love
Coleman
for
up
it to
again. That
be
guy's not going
like,
to be able to get off the mat.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like make sure it's one of our heavies, but let's be honest. Like it was a match against Russia. It probably would have ended up being the 61-kilogram match again, if it came down to it. But
Is that Seth Gross's music?
yeah, right.
Oh God.
But no, I mean, great production. The event was great, and I feel like everybody was engaged for the lack of marketing that we've had since the announcement in March up until the last couple of weeks. So, but like I said, the bar is kind of set pretty high when it comes to production. Not to say that Flow does a bad job when they do their production or anything else, but for this to be a viable stream that was even being streamed by that John Cena account on Twitter, which is how I was watching initially before I was able to get to the link, because I was watching on my phone and I was like, I can just be watching right here. Um, Pretty damn stable. So good job from the
Worldwide,
production
too.
standpoint, and yeah, good job from a production standpoint to get it out. And I was definitely satisfied with the product, right? Like you said, it wasn't our number ones, but they put on a really good show against some pretty high level competition. And it's promising when you see our depth on display like that, which was something else that I took from it, which was really cool. Any other
Real,
thoughts on Russia USA?
yeah, real quick. The other thing I liked too was kind of the pace of it all. A match ended and they were kind of getting to the next one. There was no like, oh, we got to wait 10 minutes because they're coming up too quick. Yeah, I feel like that's what happens sometimes here. It's annoying. Let's get the matches. There's 10 matches. Let's get them going. Let's bang them out quick. I like that portion of it a lot.
Yeah,
Here's a
Yeah, there's
Rocket
enough time
Mortgage
for some
commercial.
highlights and
Yes.
it seemed to be, and that was the other thing. I mean, speaking of commercials, it seemed to be pretty highly supported by a number of sponsors that were kind of all over the mat. So that was pretty awesome. Um, let's stick with the international wrestling and talk about the ranking series. There was some good, some bad, some ugly. Let's start with the women's side of things. Helen continuing to do what Helen does.
foot sweeping the shit out of people.
Yeah, didn't give up 1 point. I think it was nothing but falls as well.
Turns
So
out
Helen
she's good
doing
at
what she
wrestling.
does, Nettie getting bronze, um, and Taylor getting bronze as well. So
Kennedy
great
won.
showing from the women on that day, and then Kennedy Blades ends up winning gold, and then Rodriguez, Kilty, Hayes, they all get bronze as well. So a good amount of hard work coming back from the ranking series.
It was good
Robbie,
to see our number ones out there for the girls.
yeah, I was gonna
That was
say
my
that. I was gonna
biggest
say that
takeaway.
too. But what were your overall thoughts of how the women wrestled and bringing back some hard work from the rankings tournament?
Helen's a fucking badass. Like, she doesn't get enough respect for what she's done for women's wrestling in the US. And I know she gets a lot of respect, but I mean, with everything that she's been through with, the TBI and everything that she's had to come back from, and the fact that she wasn't even planning to compete this year. And she's just like, I'll do it anyway and see what happens. And now she's just, made the world team, knocking off everybody, winning the ranking series. I mean, she's just so good. And, having a leader like that on the team is just going to make this young team even better.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's supposed to be the old one of the group, and she's not acting like it. She's out there wrestling really, really well, just knocking people off, dominating people like she used to too. So it's good to see that, as and just like kind of Rob saying, lead by example. Go out there, get off the mat, get a gold medal, get the hell home.
She also seems to be having fun, which
Yeah.
I think is a big for her. I think it, kind of became a grind for her. And then with everything she went through, it's good to see her enjoying it and just kind of getting joy out of what she's doing.
Kevin?
Yeah, like I talked about showing clips to my son over the weekend about Helen Russell. I was showing my daughter clips of Helen Russell just foot sweeping and pinning chicks. Like It was cool, and I'm always excited to see her. I always make the joke I'm old, so I like the old people. She's not old; she's still young and a badass and killing women across the world. So, very excited to watch her. And again, you're getting medals from just about all the weights at these ranking tournaments. That's a good sign for a young team, right? I mean, we talked about, what was it, last week, where we said how excited we were to watch this young team show up and what they're going to be able to do, and these are all signs pointing in the right direction at this point in the season.
Yeah. On Robbie's point of seeing our number ones go to a ranking series, more so on the women's side than the men's side, which we'll get to. But Kennedy Blades, we talking about how much of a badass Helen is. Kennedy Blades, if there's a tournament where she's wrestling and somebody's not getting just run through and dropped on their head, like there's always so many clips. I mean, obviously the clip of her doing it at the Olympics went completely viral and nuts, but like then she's at the ranking series and she hits this sequence where she, takes a half shot, girl takes a re-attack shot, she sprawls, she comes back with an attack, and then she gets in on a double and just like runs through her. And it was like so
and she's
amazing.
just like, whoop, boom.
Yeah, like it just doesn't, like the way she moves, like she's got great footwork, and like you see how like
she's so tall too.
Yeah, and tall she is, but then you're like, man, like there's no awkwardness in her movement. She's very comfortable with, her feet underneath her and her hand placement and her ability to wrestle in all positions. And, it's great how she is the youth that is kind of bringing and ushering these things in. And I think it's awesome where you see her and Helen on the team of the youth and then the vet kind of passing things off and really pushing this team to new heights and new levels. And I'm always very amazed by how Kennedy Blades continues to just level up every single time she is out there, and there's like no complacency. You're like, man, how does she top her performance as an Olympic silver medalist? I mean, obviously you get gold next time, but like the way that she wrestled and wrestles every time out is always impressive, and you can always see how much she is truly leveling up. So, her Macy Kilty, obviously it was amazing. But just like seeing how well the women wrestled overall was great. They brought home a ton of hardware and did exactly what I believe a lot of us thought they were capable of at the ranking series.
One final point on Helen and Kennedy for just those two. Didn't Kennedy have a concussion issue a couple years ago that kept her out of some stuff too? And so again, it's like this is part of what makes this run that we've had in USA Wrestling for the men's and women's is just the health and safety of a lot of our stars has been pretty good, all things considered, right? With how violent this sport can be. And the fact that Helen was able to come back from what she was dealing with for so long is just great. And obviously, like you said, Robbie, she's out there having fun and looking great. And Kennedy too, right? I know she's young and she's, this future of women's wrestling, kind of idea. But concussions are scary, we're lucky to have her. So let's appreciate it.
Agreed. On the men's side of things, we just talked about how Lilladal wrestled in that Russia duel, but he was really, really good at the ranking series. And this, before we even get into who was there, or at least how they did, speaking of like who was there, Zahid was supposed to be there and didn't end up wrestling. There's just a number of our guys that did not wrestle at this ranking series. I think it was Carr and Hidley that were there. I can't think was there anyone else that was supposed to be there, or I don't think that there was anyone else on the world team that even made the trip outside of those two. I think it was just supposed to be the three of them, and Zahid didn't end up going. So it sucks, but I will say this, right? Is Kyle Snyder does wrestle in a good amount of places, right? Like he does compete. So this ranking series that he's taking off, understandable. But he continues to compete elsewhere. Hendrickson was at the ESPYs, chilling with Shane Gillis and having fun and taking in that atmosphere, which is pretty awesome. And I don't think that he should have passed up that opportunity either. So you're part of a select group of wrestlers that actually gets a chance to take that in and be nominated for something. So definitely take advantage of it. So I certainly think so. But like, there are other guys where you're like, man, really wish that they would have went. Would have loved to see Spencer at one of these ranking series events, or at least at this ranking series event, and some of these other guys. But it is what it is. But what Kevin, what were your thoughts on the guys that ended up bringing back some hardware? I mean, we had Trent that was gold, David Carr was bronze, Aiello was bronze, and Lilladal was gold. What were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, shout out to Lilladal and Aiello for doing double duty. That's pretty badass to go to the ranking series, which obviously has some impact. I mean, and they went and wrestled in it, and it am I misunderstanding? Like that's not going to affect them at all this year, right? Like, or is it just affect? Yeah. So more power to them for showing up just to compete and be badass dudes. Carr looked great. Carr wrestled really, really well. Lost obviously the close match in the semis. Had to battle hard to get the bronze, but was really effective in wrestling and looks really good. Trent's just a brick shit house, dude. That guy just, I don't know, man. He put it on that dude after he got taken down and absolutely just worked him. There was the other guy, he just went with knee picked or just threw him by with an underhook, and he was just like, I don't want to do this anymore, man. I'm out, and just was done. So there wasn't enough cold spray to help that guy at all. So on the planet. But no, ultimately, like, it's always a bummer. I love watching Zahid wrestle, so you would have liked to have seen that. But the guys we sent that competed, really, really looked good. Happy for them.
Agreed. Robbie, your thoughts?
We missed Levi Haynes. Levi Haynes also competed, went 1-1. Not his best showing, but good for him to get some international experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think minor adjustments will make a big difference with him, and just getting his hands on some of those guys. And then going back to that room is going to be, really beneficial for him. So I can't feel too bad about that performance, but would have liked better, but good experience. Super happy for my guy Trent, and kind of showed everybody that he is, a legit threat to be a world champ this year at 92. And it's a great weight for him, and so fun to watch. I mean, he gets so fired up and so into it, and it's hard not to be a fan of Trent. And then when you get to know him as a person, he's even better person than he is a wrestler, which, shout out to his parents for just being awesome people and raising good kids. The whole Hidley clan is that way. But I love watching Trent be successful and him finally getting a shot. And I think he's going to do very similar things at the World Championships.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. He has really put in the work to be able to use the underhook effectively, to use it efficiently more than anything, but then also have more of an offense, right? And I'm fortunate enough that I get to talk to a guy that coaches him every day, and I talk to Jamil all the time, and not that he gives me insight on what Trent is working on, but when you see Trent go out and perform the way he's performed with making the team and then winning the ranking series, and I'm talking to Jamil about things like that, right? Like, hey, he looked really good in this position. He's like, yeah, this is something that he's worked on. This is something that, we make it a point to do this or that, right? Like, so just kind of being able to kind of talk to his coaches, all honestly really cool, but then seeing how they are implementing things and how Jamil looks at wrestling, it's a super privilege of mine to be able to like pick his brain on these things and then see Trent go out and perform is like, no brainer of why he is continuing to level up because of the coaches he has in that room. And Gwiz was there coaching him.
I'm gonna say having
Is
Gwiz back in that room with him is huge too.
Yeah. So I think that's really big too. Having a guy that's won multiple world medals and has done some of the things that he's done, very big deal as well. So um the my confidence in David Carr has gone up, and it's gone up because every time he loses to the guy that basically wins, he makes the adjustments and makes them in a very big way when he can prepare for a guy that he has wrestled. Um, so that we'll talk a little bit more David Carr, but I want to get Austin in here. Austin, what were your thoughts on how everyone performed at the ranking series?
Yeah, I think it was good exposure for a lot of these guys, as a fan, and coming back to what we were mentioning, I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, this is kind of a brand new team, right? Not a ton of experience at the world level. So you would have liked to see guys like Real Woods get in there, see where he falls on the world level. And, um, just that it'd be nice to see everyone there, but I get why you don't do that. Injuries and training, things happen, but um, can't forget fan of the podcast, Austin Gomez had some highlight reels and had some nice wins there. So shout out to him. And,
He's a
Ben,
dog, man. I always love that
he
kid.
looked
I,
good.
I
He's
love I
looking big. Yeah.
love him. He looks amazing, honestly. Like hopefully he heals up quickly, but he is a dog.
hmm Hit a win over world champ Musakayev. So that's big win there, obviously. And Ben Honus representing Lehigh Valley Wrestling Club out of Italy. So
Yep.
I think he won bronze. So, we're getting some
Bronze.
more Americans included that representing other countries, which some people don't really feel good about, but more Americans, the better for me, so it's always good to see our guys getting medals.
Yeah. The thing that stuck out and had people talking, and Piles tweeted the clip of the scoring sequence with David Carr and what was it, Takahashi, and he just kind of said two blue question mark, right, and had a number of people that wanted to chime in. And as we do, we discuss way more things in private than we do in public. um and we all had different thoughts on that sequence of whether it was too blue. And there were a number of people that were like, yes, this is always too blue, like always scored this way in that sequence. um in my mind, I thought it would probably be more 4-2 because I felt like Carr stopped him enough to change direction. But I can see why it was just too blue, right? But I know Robbie had a lot of thoughts on this sequence, so I want to get his thoughts on it.
Well, it's one of those weird spots where like the chest wrap and direction change off a double there's always a lot of interpretation there. And the onus is kind of on the guy doing the chest wrap to really show a change of direction and to take over the move for the finish. In my eyes, is a pretty simple 2-0 for Blue. I mean, he exposed and held David in danger, and that was good enough for 2 for me. I think you could argue that it could have been 4 Blue. It could have been 4-0 or 4-2, kind of depending on which way you look at it. But I think the benefit was always to Takahashi in that, and I mean, I didn't question it. It looked right to me. That's the way we see it called internationally. So it made sense to me. I didn't question it at all. It looked right.
Yeah, I'm rewatching it like as we're speaking about it, and the only thing that I will say that maybe there, and my reasoning for why I thought that it could have been 4-2 was because they go over David's left shoulder because he turns him that way, and you can see him turn him that way. And not only that, Takahashi shoots that double, and he gets to a certain point where he feels David going chest wrap. And when he feels
Mhm.
David going chest
flags.
wrap, he kind of like flanks out where his body becomes straight. And when he does that, I feel like he's attempting to kind of sit David to his butt. And then David rolls him over his left shoulder, which is why I'm like, I could see that sequence going 4-2 just because of that, because of how Takahashi tried to defend what he felt was a chest wrap coming and then got rolled over on that, that left shoulder of Carr. So that was my thought. It still would have been a 2-point differential, no matter if it was scored the 2-0, like Robbie thinks it was scored correctly, or the 4-2, like I was thinking. Obviously, a number of people had, a lot of different interpretations of this entire sequence. But you can see that it is intentional of Carr, and he was looking for points. But whether or not it was warranted because of the sequence and how they got in the zone and who initiated of why there weren't any points. Kevin, your thoughts on this?
Well, the guy that was wrestling, Mike Mock today, intentionally tried to roll him through, but unfortunately he stopped nothing and gave up 4 points. And so like intentionality, I don't think is necessarily the indicator. I think it's more so if was his shoulders completely blocked by Carr's chest. Yes, they were, and from what I saw,
And he held him there.
yeah, exactly. So it's like that is, if we're talking intentionality, like he intentionally stayed in that position to kind of, show like I am the one in control of this situation.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, this is kind of a cop-out answer, but there's so much subjectivity with some of these calls sometimes, and depending on where you are and what the event is or what's happening, it's going to be called different ways. We've talked about it here before, right? In both folk style, freestyle, Greco, whatever the circumstances are, there's just subjective pieces to it. I can't tell you how many times today I saw action on the edge of the mat where one person steps out and then the other person steps out, but they let the action continue to see if anyone was actually going to finish an actual attack, so which I kind of liked, by the way. But in that circumstances, judges make a call, or the official makes a call, and then the mat judges, approve it or whatever the circumstances are. Then you just have to go with it. I mean, sure. Did they challenge it in the actual like match time?
No, it would have been a bad challenge if they did.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think
It
they
would have
did.
been a bad spot. Because even if they would have gotten a point back out of it, it was too risky at that point.
Right. So, yeah, and speaking of, there were some weird challenges in the Russia thing today too, but nonetheless, I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah. Austin, your thoughts on the sequence, and did you think it was scored properly?
I was just kind of watching it over and over as you guys were talking a little bit, and maybe I just don't understand freestyle rules enough to differentiate whose move that was. I think I see why it was 2 blue. But I could also see the argument for 2 for Carr too. We see that situation so many times, and it's such small nuances that it depends who the points are for. There's so many small nuances, and like you said, changing direction and the way he bellied out like that, I guess was the difference. But yeah, I mean, I guess for me, it's I'd like to see more consistency, but you see this position so many times, and there's so many different ways to react and how to finish it. So it would be tough. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's the right call. But you just see that position so many times, and it's called differently. So I don't know where to think about it.
To me, it comes down.
Ahead,
To me, it comes down to like having to show like a very clear change in direction, and not just oh, I'm going to go over my shoulder instead of going straight over my back. Like that's not a change of direction. That's not enough for them to say you dictated a change in the move. Like you have to like completely go over your opposite hip or something to that, to that extent to really show a change of direction. And that didn't happen there. The same thing with Mike Mock today. Like there wasn't enough of a change of direction because he just cartwheeled through on his head. So it wasn't enough to dictate that the other person took control of the move.
Yeah, I guess like I said, I don't have a problem with how it was scored, right? I can see it being scored 4-2. But
Mhm.
I don't think that it was necessarily scored wrong. I still think there should have been a 2-point differential, but they are on their feet. So if they scored 4 for blue and none for Carr, I'm like, okay, I still get it, right? But like I guess for me, and this goes back to my takeaways of David Carr and what I said about him after winning. Maybe it was Final X or maybe it was the trials, whichever one it was. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was Final X when he won the spot. When he has the ability to prepare for these top guys, he might be one of the best to make the adjustments because of the nucleus that he has, the supporting cast that he has of, his dad and Metcalf and Burrows. Um, and I became more confident with his ability to wrestle at that high level as well as make in match adjustments. I talked about, from match to match adjustments. His in match adjustments in this very match, were incredible. He was down pretty big and
Mhm.
ends up, coming back and losing 8-7. But his ability to get to Takahashi's legs where it seemed like he wasn't going to be able to buy a takedown in that first period, that's what really stood out. And that was like the bigger transition for me, is his ability to get to a leg and find the opening and create those angles. That's why I have even more confidence in Carr, because he's going to be able to make those adjustments that we've seen him make against an opponent that has beaten him before. And two, he wrestled very soundly against everybody that he faced. So lots of confidence for Carr. Obviously, tons of confidence for Hidley as well. Hopefully, Levi Haynes I'm sure took a ton away from this ranking series tournament and will impress upon his performance this weekend when he gets to Worlds, or even I don't even know if there are any other tournaments in between then and now. But I'm sure that they'll make those adjustments and he'll be ready to go as well. But I'm hopeful that all our other guys are healthy, specifically Zahid, considering he was on the list to go. And we'll certainly see what this team has in store. But as we said before, when we said last week, we're really confident in this new blood that's on the team. And now seeing how some of them performed this weekend or last weekend, even more confidence. It's definitely grown with how they've competed and wrestled pretty well. Um, Gentlemen, any other thoughts on ranking series or the car sequence or any of the other guys or girls that wrestled?
Nerp.
Nothing. Nothing. Well, we're gonna end the show, but we're gonna end the show by responding to some comments. And the first one, um, it was last week that this one came in, and I actually want to forgetting I had the name written down, and right now I am completely forgetting. I had it in the doc, and now I think I when I moved things around, I got rid of the name of who posted this, but it's a guy that comments on just about every show. So we certainly appreciate the consistency.
There was one that was like Mr. Bojangles or something,
Yeah,
right?
Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo
I'll get
Baggins.
to his. I'll
Okay.
certainly get to his. He's the guy that I'm gonna respond to. Um, This was Stetson Starkey.
There we go.
Stetson, we appreciate you guys. Obviously always commenting and being on top of these things. And I commented and said that Robbie will tackle this next week, and then I completely missed it because we had other things. But this is his question for Robbie, and I'll throw it up on the screen. But he also asked Robbie, "Can you help talk me off the ledge here? As a Tar Heel fan, it feels very hard to be legitimately excited about this upcoming season, given that we lost 3 different All-American threats this past season. What's even the point? What's there to look forward to? Who's the face of the team? Help me out, please. This is one of those suicide hotline comments. The man needs help, and he's calling our resident ACC guy, Robbie, to give him something. So you gonna give this man a lifeline, or
Well, I'm trying
get
to
him a
figure out who his
tombstone?
third All-American threat is. I'm guessing he's talking about Spencer Moore, who transferred to Illinois, Lachlan McNeil, who transferred to Michigan, and the third one I'm assuming is Ferrari, who was
Probably.
never actually on the team, because otherwise, I mean, Gavin King graduated, but otherwise there wasn't really All-American threats anywhere else in the lineup. I mean, they're going to be young this year, but I think they brought in some transfers to kind of plug some gaps, and there's certainly things to be optimistic about. I mean, Ethan Oakley had a good season last year. Was national qualifier around 16. His last year at App State, he's steadily improved. Jaden Scott also continuing to get better and better. Sonny Santiago, if he can stay healthy and wear his helmet, he's won a lot of big matches. I'd love to see some more consistency out of him, but I think he's got the potential to have a really good year. Their upper weights are kind of going to be where there's some questions, and that, like, I could definitely see why you have some concerns there, but I think their lower weights are strong enough to carry them through. Kyson Tarakina also transferred in at 25, though I would honestly argue that Cam Stenson's potentially a better option there. But we haven't really seen a super healthy Kyson Tarakina either. So if he's healthy, it'd be great. But I think they've got a really good in-state product there in Cam Stenson, who had a pretty strong redshirt year last year. I think it was 12-6, 12-7 last year. And most of his losses weren't bad. 2 of them were to Louis Gill, Steve O'Poulin. So not a lot of bad losses. He's got some good stuff going. So I mean, there's no reason to be on the ledge, no reason to jump. They will probably, they're not likely to be in the top 3 in the ACC this year. I think it's going to shake out between Stanford, Virginia Tech, and NC State this year. So I think all 3 of them have pretty strong teams. But we saw UNC pull out some big dual wins last year to pick up a share of the team title. So there's paths for them. But I think we have a pretty young team here, and you have, Rob Cole still kind of asserting his views onto the program and making it his. But I mean, I have a lot of faith in their coaching staff. Tony's a great coach. Ben Darmstadt's a great coach. Having Chenzo there, a lot of good things going on. I mean, there's nothing to feel bad about, but upper weights will need a little help.
Yeah, hopefully Enoch can get them right.
That's Dr. Francois to you.
That is Dr. Francois. Yeah. I mean, if you look at his Instagram posts, you would think he's a model for, like, I don't know, like a cologne ad or something.
He's a very sharp dressed man.
He is.
He's also very intimidating. He's not a small human.
Yeah, he's
Super
really
nice
funny
guy,
though.
though.
Super nice. He's
Yeah.
really funny. I love every time I get a chance to talk to Enoch. Super nice guy. The other comment was directed at me. So last week I had
Wilkes guy.
said, what's that?
Wilkes guy.
Yeah. It wasn't the same person. That guy hasn't commented in a couple of shows. This was also a perennial commenter in Bilbo Baggins, who I don't know if he's angry or not, but he definitely brings an aggressive vibe with his comments, right? But I mean, I love it. I appreciate him coming through every week and commenting on these things. But I had said that Mike Gray is good at protecting his guys, and I'm sure the 4 of us, or 3, the 4 of us knew what I was insinuating. Obviously, interpretation for that was what he had done in keeping his guys out of a duel a couple years ago. Now the comment reads, Mike Gray does a good job of protecting his guys with 3 question marks. He is literally known as the worst coach for protecting his team, having them wrestle with concussions constantly. You are spitting straight bullshit. So no, not spitting straight bullshit, but it was more of a shot at I was at this event. This event was in New Orleans, and it was a journeyman event where the last duel of the day was supposed to be Cornell and was it Iowa State?
I
And
think it was, yeah, because David Carr was going to wrestle Julian Ramirez again.
yes, so
And then that didn't happen.
we were expecting to see some really big matches, and all of Cornell's big time guys sat after wrestling the first two duels of the day. They all sat, whereas all of Iowa State's guys wrestled. So when I say he does a good job at protecting his guys, I mean in the sense of protecting their seed when it's possible. And I love Gray, love him. Think his family's great. But in that regard, I think it really sucked, and it's hard to believe that the reasoning behind it was that all those guys got hurt in previous duels, where I had watched those previous duels, and I was literally doing commentary on the duel before, and all of them competed and competed well, and I think all of them actually won as well and looked just fine doing it. So, and then, hearing some things afterwards of guys saying that they were joking or chummy at weigh-ins to the point where they feel like it was a calculated thing, that it was going to happen. It was inevitable that was going to happen at the end of the night. Is what it is. But that's what I was insinuating. That's what I was talking about, more so of protecting his guys. And I believe that if Julian Ramirez lost to David Carr earlier in the year, then that match happens at that journeyman event because there's a reason for it to happen. Whereas Julian Ramirez got the result that he needed to have a higher seed at NCAAs that year, and he wasn't going to allow the level set there, right? So as well as other guys were in better positions, and it was all about, and from my standpoint and from other people also, it looked like it was more about protecting seeds instead of having guys wrestle tough matches. So that's more so what I was alluding to. And like I said, I don't mean that as like a shot to Gray. He's not the only coach that we've ever seen sit a guy or not have a guy wrestle a match that can be detrimental for their seed or whatever else. So, don't take it as I'm taking shots. It just looked suspicious. And, again, we're not going to say anything on this show that we wouldn't say to people's faces either. So, but that's what I was.
I wouldn't say that to
alluding
Callie though. I would say it to Mike.
She's
His wife
definitely
scares
more
me.
dangerous than he is.
Yeah.
She
but-
stopped a fight at NCAAs this year whilst pregnant, and
Yeah, she's dangerous. She's
yeah, I
definitely
wouldn't mess
dangerous.
with her.
The wives are a little bit more dangerous than their coach husbands. But yeah, so that's what I was talking about. Wasn't a thing, but yeah.
But the second part of that comment is he's having them wrestle
Thank
with
you.
concussions constantly. That's not
Shapiro
that's
is
the
out
coach.
most of the year.
That's
Yeah.
the trainer. If the trainer clears them, the coach says, "Okay, I'm not going to hold you back if you're cleared."
Yeah, there's not
So
a lot that the
comment
coach can
doesn't
do
make
in
sense
those
to me.
scenarios anymore.
Yeah.
Shut up, trainer. Get him out there.
Stupid doctors.
But can he play?
Yeah. Yeah. This isn't a John Reeder situation. We're not going to tape it up and have him be completely concussed and get back out there. Doesn't really happen anymore. So yeah, no, I don't. If there are guys that are competing with concussions, shouldn't be happening, right? But kind of is what it is. I don't.
One other thing that I think is funny, and this is thank you, Austin, for bringing that up, by the way, because I was like, are we just talking about the one person who wears the headgear and doesn't compete all the time? Like, are there other instances? But it's funny to me because both comments, so the UNC guy is upset because Rob Cole, it sounds like, is not recruiting well or a good coach, or maybe the cupboard's just bare based on some people transferring or what have you. But it's a bad situation with Rob Cole as the head coach there at the moment for UNC is the general situation. It's also bad at Cornell. It's also bad at Cornell, where Rob Cole used to be and did a great job, but he's a bad
But
coach.
I did just say
further
Stanford's going to
south.
be top 3 this year.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So yeah, and he was also at Stanford. Yes. So it's just a funny thing that we're both UNC and Cornell fans are like, the sky is falling, and it's like, okay, stop doing that. Also, for the UNC guy, real quick, Kellen Russell, part of the reason that I loved him so much at Michigan is because that was a dark time at Michigan. And at least we had Kellen Russell winning.
At least we had Kellen.
That was great.
Besides that 1 week when he lost to Hunter Stieber.
That was tough. But at least Hunter Stieber was like healthy and still, like, we knew that was dangerous, you know?
Yeah.
So
One of the 4 matches he was healthy for?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. But all right, gentlemen. So we've gone over some comments. We've gone over the Sasso news. The only thing that I didn't mention during the Sasso news is I didn't like who was it, Joey Ward doing a victory lap on Twitter, because he had said a lot of stuff when Sasso was shot about kind of in the same vein of what Chael Sonnen had said about on FRL, was like, was Sammy buying drugs when this, that, whatever happened, when he got shot. And Joey Ward was being pretty vocal on Twitter around that time that it happened, saying that Sammy was doing certain things, this, that, whatever. I'm not, speaking to it, but with Sammy being arrested and having guns and weed cartridges on him, I kind of felt like he was taking some sort of a victory lap of like, people should have now apologized to me or something to that nature. Let's not do that, right?
Yeah,
like there's no reason for that. I know that people did the same thing with Kyle Snyder, and that situation is done and over with. So yes, we've poked some fun at it at this point, but that situation is done and over with. But like, to do victory laps when guys get arrested, it's, let's not. Even though I can say that, but I'm sure plenty of people certainly will at all times. And maybe because I'm closer with Sammy, I took a little bit less liking to it. But I don't like seeing guys taking victory laps or trying to kick guys when they're down.
Also not the same though. Those are
it
different.
really isn't. It really isn't.
Very different situations.
Yeah. So, but no, that is the show. As always, we appreciate people listening and watching and commenting and liking and subscribing, all of those fun things. Make sure that you are giving our sponsors some love. Head over to Adidas Wrestling and use QP25 to get some discounts. Head over to Poseidon and use discount code QuadPod over there as well. But yeah, appreciate you guys always. It's always fun linking up with my guys, Robbie, Austin, and Kevin. I'm Holmes. We'll see you guys again next time. Peace.
What's up, Nate Engel?